Welcome back to our show. I'm Carla Sontag, and this is The Heart of Business. And today, we're pleased to have Noelle Gemmer of Manzano Mountain Retreat with us today.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited.
Well, we're excited to have you, and we want to learn more about your business.
All right.
But before we get into that, tell me, where are you from originally?
All right. So I'm from Gallup, so about 2 hours west of Albuquerque. Born and raised there, and went through high school there, came to Albuquerque for college, and lived here for about 15 years. And then now I live at the retreat in Torreon. And so it's about an hour and a half from Albuquerque, depending on where you're starting from. And then the rest of the family, it's a family-owned and operated business, and most of the family is from the East Mountains, either Moriarty, Edgewood, or Tejedes. And so we're all very New Mexican-based, and we came together as a family to start the retreat together. So I'm kind of the farthest one away, but definitely a small-town New Mexico feel for all of us.
Well, that's great. And where did you meet your husband, Guy?
I met him in Albuquerque. I met him in college. I was in college. He was doing real estate. He still does real estate. But we met through some mutual friends that invited us out to eat. And they weren't trying to set us up, but it just worked out that way. They kind of abandoned us during that evening. They saw other people they knew and took off. So they literally left the two of us alone. And so it just kind of happened from there. We started talking and started dating a little while after that. And now this year was our 10th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you've been in New Mexico.
Yes.
What did you do before you got into this business?
I used to work at Sandia National Labs. And so I started there when I was in college. I started an internship there. So I was there for just over 11 years. I loved working there. And it really needed to be something that was just so different and so unique for me to pull away. We talked about me pulling away and joining the family and entrepreneurial efforts for a long time, especially in our real estate company. But it was just a great job, a great place to be in Albuquerque. It's a big employer, obviously. So I was there. I did business operations at Sandia as well. So it's actually been a great translation into what I do now. I do a lot of the business operations at the retreat.
And the other family members, who are they in relation to you and Guy?
So it's all Guy's family. So it's his parents, Jeanette and Jesse, and then his brother, David, and his wife, Marie. And then we do have other family. His aunt, Annie, is one of our owners as well. And then we have several family that work for us as well. They've kind of always circled around us. We definitely love including our family in it. So I do joke that I'm the in-law, but I will say that my in-laws don't make me feel like the in-law. It's very integrated. I don't think they could get rid of me at this point if we tried. So there's about 6 of us that live on site right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah. And did you start the business or buy the business?
We bought the business. And so the previous owner had it for about 25 years, I think. And it primarily was ran as a summer camp. And he had some weddings and did a few corporate retreats here and there. And then, of course, he also had the apple orchard, which we've continued. So we have 40 acres of apple orchard. So our festival starts soon this year. We have that every fall now. We've definitely blown it up from what he used to do. Since we have so many hands in the pot, we can do a lot more. I've definitely developed a huge passion for weddings and corporate retreats. And so we've really built that side of our business as well and made it more of a year-round effort.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great. And so was that kind of your brainchild in the expansion?
I think it wasn't. I think it was everyone. We had done a family meeting, actually. I think it was 2021. We flew to Phoenix and did a vacation, and it was a birthday vacation for Guy. And then we also just sat around, and I love to facilitate meetings. So I had, sticker paper and markers and everything. And we just brainstormed about what would we want to do as a family. We have a really diverse set of backgrounds. So from nursing to fitness to real estate to business operations, even lumber in the past. And so we kind of said, what brings that together? We all had a desire to do more hospitality based work. And so then this the retreat in general, it came up for sale as an opportunity, and my mother and father-in-law said, hey, do you guys want to check this out? We think this would be a great next venture as a family. And so we came and looked at it. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous up there. The trees are gorgeous. We saw elk and turkey and deer our first time up there, and we just said, this is so cool. We have to do it. And so weddings, I think, just became a natural thing just because of the makeup of that property. It has a beautiful pond. It has space for it. And so that probably was really big for me and my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. So the girls, and so my mother-in-law, Jeanette, and I have really taken off with that. So we're kind of partners in crime on all things weddings. She's really great at decor, as is my sister-in-law. And I'm great at logistics, and I'm terrible at decor. So we make a really good team.
Well, that's what it takes. Is teamwork and balance in what you're doing.
Yeah. I can say that I'm responsible for most of our farm animals. So the previous owner didn't have farm animals at the property. We brought over some chickens from my in-laws, and we brought some horses. So my mother-in-law had horses already, but that was kind of it. And I have added cows and miniature donkeys and sheep. And I think I've tripled our chicken population. We recently added peacocks. That was something really exciting for my father-in-law. He loves peacocks. So I surprised him for his birthday last year with some. So they roam the property now. So I keep adding. I shouldn't say we. I keep adding the farm animals. So I am pretty solely responsible for that.
And what did your in-laws do before that led them to this?
So the family did, my mother and father-in-law and Guy, my husband, all did real estate together. And then my brother-in-law was in and out of that as well. He's also former BCSO, and now he runs a gym in Edgewood as well that he started. And so we had a property management company and then residential real estate. And so they've all been brokers, I think, for 20 to 25 years. We still do the residential real estate. We did sell the property management portfolio. There's no way we could have done that and what we're doing now. So they did that for 25 years. And then previous to that, they actually were involved in a family lumber distribution company on my father-in-law's side of the family. So they had made the transition to real estate. And then my father-in-law did get his culinary degree in 2020. And so that's become a big passion of his in the hospitality realm. So he manages all of the catering and culinary efforts at the retreat.
Wow. Does he do all the cooking for weddings and things?
Yes. So we allow weddings to have outside caterers. Most go with us. And so he manages the team that does all the catering. We also have our summer camps still. We've maintained the summer camps. We love them. And he does 3 meals a day for up to 200 kids and adults during the summer. So it's quite an effort. That's probably a little bit less. He gets not to use a lot of his culinary expertise for camp food, but we say that we don't ever want to serve anything that we wouldn't want to eat ourselves. So our camps are very well fed. They really like our food compared to other places they've been to for a summer camp. And so we do get some really great reviews on that. And then of course he does the catering for the wedding. So his specialty, especially now in the fall, is apple cider donuts. His apple cider donuts are amazing.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. So let's break it down in the business.
Okay.
What would you say is roughly the percentage of what you're doing summer camp versus corporate retreat versus weddings?
Oh, great question. I would say if I thought about in terms of dollars, our summer camps are a pretty big chunk of what we do, I would say, and that's run from about June through August and others as well. I would say those are probably about 30 to 50% of what we do, and then the other half of that would be primarily weddings. Corporate retreats is probably about 5%. We want to grow that to have some of those more weekday bookings in the springtime and in the fall when kids are in school. They're not going to come for camps, so we'd like to bring in more of that. And then another percentage that's growing for us is the festival itself. So that may change this year. We've really done it up this year a bit bigger, so that may end up taking a bigger part of numbers. Months-wise, if I just think of like how much each takes up dates in our calendar, the camps take about a third of our calendar. And then weddings take up weekends, of course. They take a big chunk of all of our weekends. And then we do have some winter time where we're kind of a little bit slower, but we're transitioning to year round this year for the first time. We usually shut down a lot of our buildings for the winter, but now we're transitioning to year round. So I think we'll start to grow with some of our own events as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wanted to just go up and spend the night or a weekend, can they do that?
They totally can. They can book on our website. We've had a lot of our cabins on Airbnb. We're getting them on booking.com. We are just starting some glamping tents as well that will be available on our website too. So those will be really cool. We have some glamping cabins already. They're really neat. They have beautiful views, the tents do. And so, yeah, if we ever aren't booked up for a wedding, a camp, or a retreat, we post those availabilities online. And so even right now, people can come and stay overnight and go to the festival, which is super fun.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
That is. And so what is your website?
It is manzanomountainretreat.com. And Manzano, most New Mexicans probably are able to spell it, but Manzano, and then mountainretreat.com.
Great. And do you have information there about all the different options?
We do, yes. The homepage shows everything right now for our Apple Festival. Once that's over, I'll switch it back to more our general homepage. But then we have several tabs for weddings, for the camps, for the corporate retreats. If they just want to learn more about our apples, they can see some information there as well. I'll be putting up a little section that's about our farm animals. The farm animals are a big attraction. We have the hairy coos, so we have miniature Highland cows. So everybody loves those. They're very trendy right now. So we're a little bit on trend. So we'll have a page so people can see what they can visit. But we have visitors that come up and pop up all the time. People are coming up for apples and cider right now. We don't have standard hours necessarily. I always say I live there. So if you can find me, I'm probably going to let you into the store and buy some snacks and merch as well. And then we aren't yet opening up our dining hall for outside folks to come, but we do have on-site dining for our overnight guests. So when they come in and stay, they can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner in our dining hall. And we'll have some special events and times where actually other folks in the area can come and get food as well.
Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. That really exposes you to a lot more people that way.
It does. And it's nice. I mean, it's Torreon, so it's small. There's there's not a lot of people out there, and there's only so many restaurants in the area. So, of course, when you've chosen the rural life, you're generally expecting to manage your own food, but it's nice to occasionally get out and let someone else cook for you. So yes. We definitely have members of the community that come and do that. And then we also did expand our gym there as well. So we do have a fully equipped gym where members of the community can actually get a gym membership. And that's been really popular because otherwise people had to drive 50 minutes to an hour to actually get to a gym or invest in a home gym, which can be thousands of dollars. So that's actually been a really big hit for the community too.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. How does your customer base break down?
It's mostly, so your brides and grooms are generally going to be folks. They range. We do have, I think our youngest ever married was 19, and I think we've gone all the way up to about 55 right now. So, but primarily you have your kind of average folks are in their late 20s, early 30s. So that's a big part of our customer base is local weddings for the most part. We're not really seeing a lot of out-of-state weddings, although we've had some. I've had some as far as Canada this year. We had a couple from Europe, but usually there's one of the partners is from New Mexico or has some sort of route in New Mexico that's bringing them back. And then our other customer base for the camps is generally going to be schools. So they bring their programs to us. We host them. We do a ropes course. We have our pool. We have the facilities for them. We feed them, but they generally run their programs. So we do have a lot of specialty camps that come. We have a camp for kids with cancer that comes. I'll give a shout out to them. They're Camp Enchantment. We have one for kids with diabetes. That's Camp 180. They're great programs. They do great things. We have one for kids in foster care. I won't name that one. There's some sensitivity there for protecting them, but we do have those. And then we also have the Grief Center that has come a couple of years now to for kids in grief. So we have these cool specialty camps. And then another big one is the Rotary Club does a 2-week camp with us. So it's for juniors going into their senior year, and they run a great leadership program. So we have some of those special programs, nonprofits that are doing these camps. And then we also have schools that are sports related. Since we have a junior Olympic size pool, we have, a field area, we have a full court basketball gym, we have a volleyball pit. And so we do have some sports teams and other school teams that like to come out. We've had some cross country teams. They like to run around the property and be in the mountains at high elevation. It's really nice for them to do that. And so that's kind of our camp mix a little bit. And then corporate retreats are still pretty small, like I said, but we do have a couple of construction and engineering groups. We've had a few nonprofit adult retreats where they're, hosting a retreat and having people come for their program. And then the other part is just the general New Mexico community, greater Albuquerque area, as well as the East Mountains for our Apple Festival.
And how far or extensive is your advertising? Do you try to reach outside the state, or are you focusing on New Mexico?
We focus primarily on New Mexico, and we primarily use social media. That's our biggest draw that we've seen so far. And then for weddings, we use Wedding Pro, which is Wedding Wire and the Knot. That's usually the first place that recently engaged couples go, and that still tends to be fairly local. We would like to look at how we might broaden our weddings a little bit to out of state, to maybe our bordering states. But yeah, we mostly focus on New Mexico base. There's a few Southeast Texas folks that make their way here as well, but primarily we're seeing New Mexico customer base.
Yeah. And as far as employees go, you've got a lot of family. How many family members do you have?
I think we have, including there's 7 owners, and then I think we have about 4 additional family members that work for us on and off, some full-time, some part-time for some contracting work and stuff like that. And then we have an additional 4 or 5 full-time staff on top of that. And then we have a lot of seasonal staff. So we have summer seasonal staff, and then we have our Apple Festival staff. So I did not ask my sister-in-law, Marie, she's the Apple Festival director. She does all of our special events. I didn't ask her how many seasonal staff she's hired this year. I would guess she's probably around 15 to 20, maybe a little bit more, which is definitely more than last year. So we're growing there. We have people that are just coming for the 4 weekends of the festival to come help out with the store, with our farm animals, with classes and stuff like that.
Wow. And so if somebody was interested in working there at the ranch, what would they do?
If they go to our website, we have a little contact form, or they'll see my email and number on there. They can reach out to us. So I am hiring an event coordinator right now. So we're usually hiring at one point or another as we grow. We're finding more and more of a need to bring up staff to help us with the work. Like I said, it's challenging being in the rural area to get folks in, but we do have great staff. And we hold our staff to a really high customer service standard, and they really deliver. I mean, everyone that comes always talks about how kind everyone is to them, and that's super huge for us, that it's not just that they feel like we're kind to them because we're the owners, but also that our staff are kind to them. So that's huge to us, and we've really developed some great staff, even recently, some folks that have come in. And then we also do have an internship program that we do with Torrance County in the summer. So they actually have a grant that funds them, as I understand it, and they partner students with different businesses in Torrance County. So we usually have about 5 or 6 students that come in the summer, and they're fantastic, and we love having them. A lot of them come back for Apple Festival to work with us. So that's been super fun. So we do have some opportunities for high schoolers as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do your staff normally, do they live on site? Or are they commuting?
They're commuting, but most live in the Tehique, Torreon, Manzano, Mountain Air area, and then some from Estancia as well. So kind of within about a 30-minute radius. We do have a couple of staff that commute from a farther distance. We have one from Albuquerque, one from Sandia Park. And so we do have some that are willing to make that drive, which we make the drive all the time. To me, I love the drive. You don't have phone service, so you really just get to kind of check out and have a little bit of decompression time. So, but most of our staff are nearby. A few are even just a few minutes away. They're our neighbors. So right now it's just a few of us owners that are living on site. And that was just, I say that my husband and I ended up living accidentally on site. We didn't really mean to move away from Albuquerque. We were planning to stay in Albuquerque. But once I started adding animals, you can't really buy a bunch of animals and then expect your in-laws to take care of them. So we kind of were like, oh, I think we live here now. The level of effort just required us to be there 24/7. And so, which I love it. I mean, we're in a tiny house right now, but I joke that we have a really big backyard, so that kind of makes up for it. So I have all the pet farm animals. Guy has a lot of pet deer. So it's lovely waking up and having deer outside your window and the smell of fresh pine. It's great. So we love it up there.
It is a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure of getting a tour from you
Yeah.
a while back.
Yeah.
So how long have you been operating there?
We've been there 3 years now. And it is surprising, just to touch on that. I mean, even for when we came out and visited, I did not know that retreat existed. And a lot of people come out and say, how does this here? It's just this gem in the back of the mountains that you don't expect to be there. And so now we've really found a lot more people starting to say that they're starting to hear about it, I even had someone that said, oh, my dental hygienist was saying that she's going to be at a wedding there this weekend. And so that's super fun to have a little bit of that notice. So we've really grown a lot in the 3 years that we've owned it.
It seems like it has really blossomed.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll continue to do so because it's been great for us and for the community.
Oh, I can tell that there's a true passion.
Yeah,
It's from the heart.
It is. It is a labor of love. It's a lot of labor. I will say starting a business like this is not for the faint of heart. We have a lot of people that come up and say, I would love to do this. And I do warn them a bit of it envelops everything that is your life. There's not really anything else that I do right now besides the business. I try to save some time for, my personal faith and for friends, but it is when you're right in the beginning of it, right? We're still we still consider it a startup phase. It was already an established business, but we've just taken it to a different level, with the amount of family and owners that can, put their hands to the work, that it takes up a lot of our time, attention, and love for sure.
And, we find that to be true of most small business owners.
Yeah.
And not just in the startup phase.
Right.
But
Right.
every phase.
It is. That's true.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you've faced?
I will say it's the really transparent thing would be the family dynamics. That is new for me personally. My husband and his parents and then his brother also, they've worked together for years. And that was something when we talked about joining the family in this endeavor was him saying, I've never really imagined a life where I'm not in a family business. I come from a family business background. My family owns several restaurants in Gallup. And so it's not entirely new to me, but for it to be something that I do versus a corporate environment where I came from, where it's 14,000 people, between staff and contractors, that's really big and bureaucratic and everything like that. So going to small family business where you have a lot of highly opinionated people, a lot of people that, are personally invested financially, emotionally, in every sense of the word, that is really challenging. And so maintaining a good family relationship with your mother-in-law and your father-in-law and your sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and also realizing that, with the dynamics of a family business, you're one of the people that's difficult to deal with sometimes and makes the family dynamics hard. So that's challenging, mm-hmm. and especially that living on site with each other for me and my mother and father-in-law with Jeanette and Jesse, it's a level of intimacy I don't think I ever thought I would have with them. And it's brought a lot of blessings, but definitely frustration, I think, on both sides. And then figuring out, okay, how do we just set that aside and realize that we love each other? We all have the same goal. We all have a direction we want to head together. We all want the business to succeed and to be couched in that. And so I will say I've gotten immensely much closer to my mother-in-law, and we just really look out for each other, where I call her probably, and she calls me 30 times a day, I swear, just because it's just quick questions like, hey, this wedding's coming up. Hey, what about this? What about this? We're texting. And so from the outside in, that might seem really dysfunctional, but it's just, we're working together, just like you would communicate with a coworker. So I think that's a big challenge, to get used to that dynamic and to make sure that you're not tearing your family apart in endeavoring for a business. And so we're kind of always looking at that. My husband and I have done tons of real estate projects together, but this is really involved. So that's been a challenge for the two of us personally too, for Guy and I, to figure out what are our roles in the business versus our roles as a husband and wife. And so that's a challenge. The one uniqueness for us that I've seen compared to other family businesses is it's usually the parents have started the business, have grown the business, and there's a baton being passed and they're not ready to, that sort of thing. We all started this together, and so we have some of those relational dynamics, but it's new to all of us. We came in on it together, so there's not really a passing necessarily, although there will be a bit of that. My father-in-law is the CEO currently, and at some point they'll want to retire and enjoy the fruit of their labor. And so there'll be a little bit of that, but there still is this dynamic of starting it together. So, and they do have to deal with a very highly opinionated daughter-in-law, and so that is a challenge too. But it's been a good learning experience. It's holding up a mirror constantly of like, wow, I have a lot of flaws I didn't realize I had in a corporate environment where I didn't have a lot of ownership of the outcome. So, that's a big one. I would say staffing is the other one, which I'm sure is pretty common for most small businesses and a lot of businesses right now in general. The uniqueness for us, again, is that rural element that we have, but being able to have staff that stay on. We still do have a seasonal element, so we might have someone that's really great, but we may not be able to keep them full time through the whole year, so they may have to seek other opportunities, and so we may lose them even if they're great, just because we want them to grow. We don't want to hold people back, but that's a big challenge, is just kind of getting good staff in that are going to stay. And I was telling you earlier, beforehand, that I'm hiring again, and just finding someone that is either willing to make the commute and can stay committed to that, or it's not an actual commute, they're a neighbor, so they're not too far away, has been a challenge for some of our admin needs as well. So wanting someone to stay longer. We're in an environment, I think, where people don't stay long in their jobs, and that was true from my previous job too. Is we had this change in culture of people that have been there for 40 years versus people that didn't really want to stay past 1 to 2 years sometimes. And so that's a challenge where now, as a small business owner, where you're putting a lot of time in training and building someone up to take over a lot of your work, and then they leave and you're like, oh man, now I have to do all of that because there's no one else to do it if I don't do it. So staffing is definitely a challenge as well. And then I think the third I'll just briefly bring up, I think, is that people are super price sensitive right now to things. So we find that from weddings to camps, food is a big thing, right? Food's expensive right now, and it's expensive for us. And so we have to have maybe higher prices than people would like. And so that's a little bit challenging. Although on the wedding side, I would say we're pretty reasonable compared to other venues. But I think that's a challenge, is people are price sensitive. So we've found a lot of people are looking for maybe a backyard wedding where they're just not spending much versus coming to the venue, or they think they should get a lot for not a lot of money. And in my mind, I'm thinking of all my overhead that I have to pay to maintain a 140-acre property. And so that's a challenge, is people are pretty price sensitive right now. So being able to meet our financial goals is a challenge for us too.
Yeah, I think the economy is tough right now.
It is.
And could get a little tougher before we see some relief.
Right. I know. So we're trying to figure out then, how do we communicate our value to people, right? Of saying we can't really lower prices. We don't want to really play that game. So how do we make sure that we can actually provide the value that we're saying we're going to provide? Because we do provide a really unique experience with the venue that we have, both for weddings or a corporate retreat. It's not going to a hotel. It really is a lot different of an experience for a wedding or for a corporate retreat where you want to unplug and actually get out in nature. That's a very different experience. Or to do our ropes course, that's a little bit less common. People are used to being on their computers, and it's like, hey, climb up a pole and go down a zip line with all of your coworkers. But people love it when they do it. They don't always like the idea of it, but it really makes a difference for their team.
Yeah, I bet that is something so unique that
Yeah.
people need to try doing stuff like
You
that.
should try. We keep saying we want people to figure out that to relearn that we can do hard things and scary things and do it scared. And we learn that a little bit as kids, and sometimes we lose that. And so I actually love the ropes course for adults because we carry so much baggage and new fears that we've developed. And so doing something so physical, it really translates a lot to them for the workplace when they're going back to work together. So that part is really fun.
Well, in life in general, too, when you find that you can overcome your fears.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can stand up to them and you can go through that. It is not just a learning experience, it's a life-changing experience.
It really is. Life is not easy, but we're in a very comfortable society. And so people like being willing to say, I'm going to put myself into that uncomfortable position and learn something from it. I think you're right. It does have a lot of life application too.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. So what is the one thing that you would want people to know about your business?
Oh, that's a hard one. And I'm such a long-winded person. I think one thing that's super important for us is that we are New Mexicans and we are a family. And we're here to create experiences for other people in New Mexico and to benefit New Mexico. I think that's a huge thing. So we could talk about all the things we do, the what, but I really think the core of who we are is our family approach and that we want to better New Mexico, whether it's our employees, whether it's someone walking on the property as a visitor from out of state or out of the country, or for our community that we have built around us, so that in the county, around Torreon, around Manzano, for them to feel like we're a part of that community and we're not just separate from it has been really big to us. And it's been a great community. They've really opened up their arms to us as well. So I think I would leave it at that. Is just that we are a family business wanting to benefit our state and our area.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that the community was welcoming to you.
Yeah, they are. Gosh, our neighbors are great. We have some of them work for us or they just come help with things. We just have great people that live around us.
Wow, that's wonderful. So what would you, if looking at New Mexico and doing business here, if there was one thing that you could change about the business environment in our state, what would that be?
That's an even harder question. What one thing I would change for the business environment? You stumped me on that one, Carla. I can think of a lot of things, of little things, but what would be one thing? I mean, I do think having more for our small businesses in terms of resources. I think one benefit that we have is me coming from a corporate background allowed me to bring in a lot of processes and systems and things that I could bring into the business. But I think just more support for small businesses, making things easier. I will say working through government things in a smaller county can be very difficult. You don't always have people that are there to help you. And a lot of times it feels like the state or the county could be there where hey, I have red tape for you to go through. And that's not universal. I mean, we have some county officials that work with us and they're fantastic. We have a great set of commissioners right now in Torrance County. They're super pro-business, which is awesome. And so even that I think would be a good model to follow is how are they benefiting the community and businesses that benefit the community. So I think right now we seem to be in a very anti-employer culture, that comes up on social media a ton. And I think there's a lot of policies coming through the state that a big company can weather. The last company I was at can weather, but small businesses, some of these policies coming through is a killer. Our payroll is super high. It's a big chunk of our costs is our payroll, which I, to an extent, love in the sense of what money I'm putting into my employees' pockets. That's important. We need them and we want to multiply ourselves and support them that way. But there are things that make it hard to actually employ as many people as we want versus make the decision of I'm just going to keep being that small business owner that's just going to keep doing it myself. And I've really just built myself a really a 24/7 hard to do job because I can't hire enough people to do it for me because it's so expensive. So I would say that just having some things that are focused on the actual impact of small businesses, because we're a huge, big small business state. We have a lot of small businesses. We don't have a lot of big corporations that are coming in, so when it comes to jobs that are available for staff, being able to say, I want to be competitive with the rate that I'm giving someone, knowing all the other costs that are going to be on top of that hourly rate. I can't be competitive if I have to really think about all those other costs and then drive my own hourly rate down. So I'd love to see more of a recognition of what those policies do for small businesses. I think they're not quite recognizing that the impact of the small businesses does impact the employees. It does impact that labor force who they say they're trying to support. So I think that would be. I'll stop right there. I'll go on to a bigger diatribe if I say that more.
But very true. Very, very true what you shared. So Noelle Gemmer, representing the family-owned Manzano Mountain Retreat.
Yes.
Any last words of wisdom for us today?
I think one thing that I have learned is how important it is to consider the cost of what you want to do and then still go do it and make that attempt. I think we have really done a lot. We sometimes forget to look at our progress. So we do forget that. But I do think this has been such a cool adventure, something totally different from anything else I would have ever thought I would do. And I remember my manager from Sandia when I said, hey, I think it's time for me to do something else. She basically said, go do it. And if you ever find yourself in a position that you can't do it anymore, call me. And I think that was huge for me, for someone who, had a vested interest in me staying, said, go and try this out. And so I've really carried that with me. I think count the cost. I think that was something difficult for us with the relational part I was talking about earlier, but also just go for it. Do something different. Think about how you can benefit the community around you. And like we talked about earlier, do the hard things. Do something that's scary and challenging and pushes you past your limit, because you grow so much. Even if it fails, which of course our goal is not to fail, but even if it does, you've learned something and you can succeed in the next endeavor.
Well, thank you, Noelle, for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Carla. It has been so nice sitting down and chatting with you. I appreciate you supporting us and also doing so much that you do for New Mexico businesses. So I love that you have this, that you're promoting those around you as well. I think you're a great example of what I just said as well, and the impact you have to your community and to the state. So thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure.